Welcome everybody. My name is Stephanie Lauren. I am the manager of high performance and athlete services with Ringette Canada. Obviously my title may not, lend itself to a coaching webinar, but I have been working really closely with our technical director and all of our provincial partners on supporting the community as we move through this crazy time of COVID and startup, and also just new ways we can connect with the community now that we're not seeing everybody face to face. So we have run 2 webinars already with our Courageous Conversations. So if you've been with us for those, this will be a little different because it's webinar format. So it'll be more kind of Keely talking to you and answering some questions. And we also have our Q&A box, which I'll go over in a second, but just formally introducing Keely, the other panelist with me here, if you have never seen her in face-to-face mode.
Like this with a cage.
I know, profile picture. So Keely is part of 5 Count Goalies instruction and was the goalie coach / assistant coach for the senior national team for the last 2 programs. So I've worked really closely with Keely. So we have a lot of fun together, and I think tonight's going to be super informational for you. And it seemed like there were a ton of questions that came in with registration. So we're super excited to have Keely here with us. If you have questions throughout, we encourage you to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen instead of the chat, only because this way everyone can see your question, but also it helps Keely and I keep organized as to what we've answered and what we haven't yet for at the end. And we'll just keep microphones muted as much as possible. We actually have to unmute you if you want to talk. So if you have a dying desire to do it, let us know, but we'll keep to the Q&A box as much as possible. And I will also be monitoring the chat. So if you have something kind of on the side you'd like to ask me or Keely, please use the chat function. And it's private as long as you either pick one of us or just say all panelists. So without further ado, I'll let Keely take it over. We are recording tonight, so it can be shared with those of who haven't been able to join, but it will really just be Keely and I and our faces and voices. So thank you. Go ahead, Keely.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. This will be a little bit different. I was just realizing when you were talking that I was trying to smile with my eyes so that if I had a mask on, you could see that I was smiling. But yeah, it'll be a little bit different that you guys can hear me. I can't quite see everybody. I've done a number of these goalie coach talks with a number of coaches, a number of parents, a number of goalies over the years. And most of the time, it's really nice to have some interaction to, get a show of hands for various things and kind of get some feedback along the way. I find that when I'm thinking about my presentation style, I'm a little bit with I'd say a bit of a dry wit. So I see it helps if I can see Steph's shoulders moving. Then I know that every so often my humor is kind of getting through to a couple people. So hopefully that will help. But really happy to be here. We have an hour and we're pretty packed for the hour. We have a number of questions that people have submitted ahead of time, and I've tried to organize them into about 6 topics. To give you an overview, I guess I'll go through my background in a little bit more detail than what Steph did, just to give you an idea with the wide breadth of what I have with all my different sports and playing and coaching. Lends a little bit to my experience for my answers for when people have specific questions between sports and different things like that. And then I'll touch base just to give everybody on the call an idea as to who else is on the call. And then a little outline as to the different topics we're going to cover, which I've kind of divided into about 6 different groups. But me and Ringette, so just to give away my age, I am 44. Almost at the reading glasses stage, mostly because I had eye surgery, so I'm progressing that part. But I started playing Ringette when I was 6, back when my dad asked if I could play hockey with my big brother, and the answer was no, girls have to play Ringette, they can't play hockey. So we didn't know what Ringette was, but my dad signed me up. And halfway through my first year, I tried on the goalie pads. And quick story, some of you have probably heard it, but I think my first game we lost maybe 14-12 or something crazy absurd like that. And what I remember the most wasn't the score, wasn't letting in all the goals. What I remember the most was when I came out and was carrying my equipment into the lobby, all the parents from both teams said, "Hey, goalie, great game, goalie, way to go. You did great, goalie." So right away, I was a 6-year-old kid that let in 14 goals, and I was the center of attention. So I think from that moment, I've been kind of hooked for being a goalie, and much to my parents' much to their utmost stressful levels for the rest of their lives, I've been a goalie ever since. I started in Ontario. I started with Kitchener Ringette, and then I moved. I played with Waterloo. I played with Sudbury, just depending on where I was going to school and who needed a goalie as I got older. I moved to Alberta in 2002, 2003 at the start of the NRL. So I helped build the NRL actually. I was the athlete rep on the NRL board when we put that together, National Ringette League. And moved to Alberta. Mostly I moved because I was playing ice hockey as well at the time, and my hockey coach didn't want me playing ringette anymore at the same time. And I was also looking for a job. So finished articling, finished law school and needed a job. So moved out to Alberta to Edmonton. The hockey program out there needed a goalie. The ringette program was happy to have me and would help work with my schedule. So I'd like to say I'm probably the last of the great two-sport athletes, aside from all of those people that are now being forced to choose one sport for their life and 24/7, only one sport. I got to play a couple sports at a very high level. I played in the NRL until 2012, I think was my last year. So 19 Canadian Ringette Championships was my total, 9 gold, 8 silver. So almost every year we made it to the finals. We had really good teams, but we also had really good groups of people and coaches that helped us as teams, because national championships, when you get to that high level where it's a 1 week or a 4-day event, it really is the team that's a good team that carries it through, as opposed to just the most skilled group of people. Been on the national team since 1998, officially retired in 2012. So that was 14 years, and then moved right into coaching. So I've actually been coach of the national team since the 2013 program, all the way up to this last program. Also with the U19, one of the West, I did start with some Bell AA. I've coached in the NRL, and I'm very proud to say now I am the active start coach for Edmonton Ringette. So quick story, I know we don't have much time, but quick story was last year when I had my daughter was 5 at the time, and finally stopped hanging onto my leg when we're on the ice time. But I called, we were doing a drill, and I stopped the drill, blew my whistle, and I called all the kids in, and I was like, come on in, come on in. And they all looked at me, all the little kids, and I was like, I feel like when you guys are scoring on the empty net that nobody's celebrating. And they all paused, and I was like, we need to work on our goal celebrations. And so we stopped practice at the active start level. We worked on our goal celebrations, and we had a lot of fun. But I'm also pleased to point out that my active start, much to the joy of all the parents that I coach their daughters, everybody wants to be a goalie on my active start team. And it's not because they get the high level technical teaching, it's that they have a coach beside them the whole time, walking them through and encouraging them and making their turn in net the most fun. So I know this is the more advanced side of the two talks. Heather's running the U12 and under talk. So Heather Conkin, who's my goalie partner with 5 Count, she's running the younger program. I'm running the older program. I'm a little bit older, so I drew you guys. But yeah, having fun kind of carries through all the way through. Other quick high level, I played inline hockey. So when I went to school for ice hockey for University of Toronto and played there. For ice hockey, I played in the National Women's Hockey League and the Canadian Women's Hockey League. So I played against Cassie Campbell, Haley Wickenheiser, all the big hockey people. So when you're comparing ice hockey to ringette, I've also done a lot of goalie and hockey programs for Hockey Alberta with the tryouts and different things for their U18, U21, whatever programs they have. So comparing those two sports, but inline hockey is my other main passion, where I played on the national team since 2002. So since Worlds for Women started, I played on the national team. And then in 2012, 2013, I moved into coaching for the inline team too. So inline for the women's program is every year we have Worlds, which is quite fun. And we get teams from all over the world. So we've played teams from China, Japan, Singapore, India has a team. Namibia has a team, which is pretty cool. So for Namibia, I'm actually one of their goalie consultants. And we do Zoom calls in the last couple of months with all the Namibian goalies, which is pretty fun. So we do them in English, in case you're wondering what other languages I speak. English is my main language, which is good. And then we also do things down in South America and other places like that. So I find comparing all those sports really gives a good outlook on ringette and what we can do to bring ringette and what we can do with our ice hockey instructors and the different instruction that we're getting and how we can relate it to our ringette sport. The other quick highlights with work, I'm a lawyer, but I'm a fun lawyer. So I work for the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL. I was their first in-house lawyer, and I've been there for almost 15 years now. Managed the Oilers, the Oil Kings, helped manage the Rogers Place, the live events and everything. Working from home right now just because we're hosting the NHL playoffs, which is quite fun, but I don't have to be there in person, so that's good. And now as a parent, so I've got two kids. My daughter's 6 in active start, and my son is almost 4. And we just told Steph as the call got going, she got to say hi to him, and he's going to start in active start as well. Because for me as a coach and a parent, I get both kids on the ice at the same time. And for me, knowing that my son, of course, is going to be a superstar goalie no matter what sport he picks, but I figure Ringette's a good place to start for that too. One quick plug is 5 Count, the goalie instruction business, Ringette goalie instruction business that we do run. We do have our website. We have our goalie books. I've got a new Ringette goalie trapper coming out in the next 2 weeks. We're going to start shipping it to my house, so that's good. And we have our website is ringettegoalies.com. My email is keely@ringettegoalies.com. So overview for right now, we're going to try to get to the general majority of your questions, but if we don't get to your specific question, you can email staff, you can email myself, keely@ringettegoalies.com, and I can try to help you with your specific questions as we go throughout the season. So I know it's very busy as coaches and as parents, and the questions that come up aren't always able to predict and figure out where they're coming from. So it's always good to have a quick resource that you can just reach out and be like, hey, I've had a random question. I have no idea who to go with it. Start with us and we can help sort things out for you. The audience of who we have, just looking at the list that Steph sent, the fun part, I have some former teammates. I have some former coaches, goalie coaches, some people that I've coached with and people that I've played with. So it's neat recognizing a lot of people and knowing a lot of names, but we also have people basically from BC all the way to the Maritimes. So we've got pretty much every province represented. We've got U14 all the way up to NRL. So we've got a lot of skill levels. We've got lower levels all the way up to AA, AAA, and you name it. So we are going to try to cover things that will be applicable for all of you, but realizing that with 100, 200 people on the call, we're trying to at least make sure that you go away with a couple nuggets that you can take back to your team and to your coaching and to your parenting of your goalies. Yes, so if I don't, I have some notes just to make sure, but as I ramble myself just to keep it going. But if we don't get your questions covered, give us a shout later and we'll try to keep it going from there. The main topics, I've got 6 things that I'm going to cover in the hour, depending on how quickly we get through and how many questions stem from those. But wanted to cover high level what they're going to be so that if you have specific questions or things that you're looking for, that you can keep things just until we get to that area. We have had a lot of requests for specific drills, so I'll talk about that right off the start to kind of explain how we deal with that and how we kind of help with that. Had actually a lot of questions about hockey versus ringette. You have hockey drills, you have hockey instructors, you have hockey goalie parents. So what's the difference between the two sports that are very, I guess, very relative and relevant for our sport? Something that's always near and dear to a lot of people's hearts is the goalie mental game. I don't know why people find goalies are so difficult to deal with, but apparently having the pressure of the entire game on your shoulders creates a lot of confidence and focusing questions, because us as individuals, we get centered out for a lot of that. So in the mental game, I'm just going to cover 3 things: our confidence, our ability to focus and refocus, and our rebounding. I'm going to try to give you a couple quick tips on each of those that you can take back for your goalies. We had questions about practice overall. So how do I incorporate my goalie? What do I do with my goalie? How do I do drills or make things worthwhile for my goalie? We had questions about pregame, during the game. So kind of talk about some pregame and during the game with your goalie. And then I saved this one at the end that I'll probably get to a lot sooner instead of at the very end, but I call this 6th topic is my rants. So that's good, Steph laughed. So I'm assuming most of you find this funny, but I've been a goalie for a very long time, and I've been a ringette goalie for a very long time, and I'm quite passionate about our sport of ringette. And it's nice that, I guess it's nice that I've played other sports at such a high level, so that when people compare it to other sports, or I guess the fact that I played way back before the new ring jets and way back before the shot clock. So I've played with a lot of different strategies in the sport of ringette. Back when the players weren't training 24/7, when we didn't just have a lot of speed and power to rely on, when we had to rely on a lot of different things. So I have a couple rants relating to communication and movement and ring distribution that I'm definitely going to be touching on at some point in the talk. So I guess no questions right off the start. Is there, Steph, or shall we jump right into requests for specific drills?
I think go ahead. There's a couple, but they're kind of incorporated into the topics you're going to touch. So if we don't, I'll get to them during those topics for sure.
Perfect. And Steph, you'll find too, I'll ask you questions sometimes just so I'm not talking for an hour straight. I know you assume because I'm a lawyer that I can just lecture and talk forever, but I think I'm more the goalie side where I'm like, once I've been interacting with people for 5 minutes, that's way too much. And I need to just go back to my crease. Like I can be friendly with my teammates and chat in the dressing room, but I can't wait for the game.
Gotcha.
Just let me go back to my space. Okay, so requests for specific drills. This is always a tricky one because every coach talk that we give and every time we talk to coaches, they say, what drills can we do? What can we do? And aside from getting in and showing a board and drawing things and emailing a lot of things to people, which is really hard to do because there's so many different variety of ages and skill levels for you as your team and your coaches and your goalies, I think I'm going to just give some overall for specific drills. As coaches at the start of the season, always good to set out with your goalies a couple drills that they can do on their own in a crease or just off to the side, so that if you're talking or if you've been doing a lot of things where the goalies don't get a lot of shots, that they can have 3 to 5 minutes on their own just to warm up. So we have in practices and different things like that, or if your goalie's going in fresh and because you had to put a second goalie in, just 1 to 2, 3, 4 drills that they work on their movements to warm their legs up very quickly. And if you work with them on a couple patterns, on a couple routines, you can say, hey, we've done a lot of player drills. Now we're going to do a breakaway drill. But before we do that, you go and do your movement drills for 3 minutes just to warm up before we hop right into breakaways. Because when we get to practices on number 4 there, you'll get my thoughts on starting a practice with breakaways. I've worked on that with coaches over the years and they see my side of it very quickly, which is helpful. But I think for specific drills, overall, T-push, shuffle, very basic, very basic. Anything that's getting them T-pushing, shuffling, anything that's getting direct movements. I find a lot of movements, especially goalies as we get older, we can't do the gradual, I'm going to T-push and glide to a stop. We can't do that anymore, especially at the higher levels of ringette, is that we need quick, hard pushes, quick, hard stops. If we're shuffling, we need a hard push and a hard direct stop. And so this is a great way that you can challenge your goalies, is to give them some patterns, give them some movements in the crease and say, no matter what, I need hard pushes, hard stops. You can put letters, you can do an M, a V, you can do a box, a square, a triangle, however you want to design it in the crease with them, some back and forth, whatever you want. Hard pushes, hard, crisp stops, definitely. I also think butterfly is helpful, and I'm going to hop right into my first rant, is the butterfly slide. I have played ice hockey at the highest levels. I can do a butterfly slide. I have played ringette at the highest levels, and I know you're going to get roasted if you do a butterfly slide consistently. It looks great and it's fabulous. And it's good to know how to do, and it's fun to do in practice. When you get playing the higher levels, I'm going to say probably U16 AA and up. So definitely U19 for sure, NRL. And if your goalies want to look at any AAA or any programs beyond that, the players are smart enough. If you're sliding around, they're going to put it over your shoulders. Even if you are a tall goalie, we have very few goalies that are over 6 feet tall in ringette. We do have a few. But even the ones that are over 6 feet tall, I talk with them and I still explain the benefits of them moving around on their feet, getting somewhere on their feet and coming to a complete stop before they make the save. Because the moment you get a reputation for sliding around on your knees and sliding here, sliding there, is the moment that the smart players are going to start holding onto the ring and deking and just taking one step and beating you into a wide open net. So yes, butterfly is good, especially in these movement drills. If you want to do some butterfly slide because the parents are pressuring you or because the kids are pressuring you and think it's fun, that's great. but feel free to explain the benefits of a butterfly and then back to their feet in the game. So any drills that we're doing as our Ringette goalie instructors, butterfly, back to your feet, T-push where you gotta go. So you can do move here, butterfly down, up, and back and move. All right, so that's what we recommend for the butterflies. And ring distribution is actually something that isn't used very much. I find it's a lost art. I find that, I guess, two sides is that first, perhaps in practices, it's not focused on enough. And second, in games, it's not recognized as much a benefit as it could be. And it's, yes, whatever, if you want to use a glove or a blocker or a trapper or like the Keeley trapper, whatever you want to use, if you can have a quick toss that's accurate and get your team going on a breakout and catch the other team off guard, you can play an active part in the offense of your team, which is quite helpful. If you're a goalie that has poor ring distribution, all you can use is your stick, or all you can do is just pass it 2 feet from your crease barely accurately, it's going to be a lot easier for those players to stop your breakout and to make it a lot harder for your team to break out, thereby getting everybody tired. When you're tired, goals go in. So I think ring distribution in practice and for drills, if you have an extra coach, if you can give them just quick pick up, ring, throw, and hit targets and things like that, it's good to give them a chance. And then they can try different kinds of ring distribution too. So we have a forehand ring distribution. We also have the backhand now, so they can try the backhand. That's what it's for when they're sitting on their own, when they're working on specific drills for themselves, or any drills that you guys are doing. Toss in some ring distribution, some forehand, some backhand, and get them working on their stick distribution as well as their ring toss. So we get everything going, and that's what they can do on their own, or they can do it with a coach, or they can do it in practice as well. So I think that's my overall rant for specific drills. I covered a couple of my favorite topics in there, but so yeah, we're not really here to draw out a whole bunch of drills, but I think just overall get them moving, lots of movements, specific stops, starts, back to the feet, and go. Set out some patterns and give them 3 or 4 at the start of the season that they can do on their own. It'll get them in routine and it will help them. Good. So any questions or anything on that overall topic?
I think you covered a little bit, but I don't know if there's something a little bit deeper. Brad was just asking and saying his goalie is hesitating when throwing the ring. Any suggestions to work on making that quicker ring toss, like to work on the speed of it?
Ooh, good one. So I like that we jump right into things right off the bat, and I love ring toss. So ring distribution right away. When I talk to the goalies, I also talk to the defense. So I need the defense to look at the goalie when they have the ring. So when she's got the ring, I'm going to say she for goalie for the most part, but I realize that we do have guys in Ringette. But as soon as I've got the ring, I want my defense to turn and look at me. And then I tell them where they're going, or I tell them that they're ready. We have some sort of communication between me and my defense, that they don't just take off and run their pattern. I need them to look at me. And then as soon as I'm ready, instead of me looking at the ring to pick it up and to slowly get my hand down, pick it up, and then look, instead you want them to practice picking up the ring as they're scanning with the peripheral or with their main attention, and pick up the ring in the peripheral. And that's going to take practice. If it's their trapper, or even if it's using one hand on their stick, they need to be able to do all that stuff down there while they're scanning the group. So that needs to be something. And Brad, I don't know if your goalie, what type of, if it's a ring toss or a stick toss, but so first they might be hesitant because they might have got picked off a few times. So they might need to know a couple safe areas to throw, or they might need just some confidence to try it in practice. But I think if they're connecting with their defense right away, if their head's already up as they're picking up the ring or as they're moving the ring, and then it helps too, we try to get all of our goalies, starting from our little goalies up to our big goalies, get them to start talking. So as soon as I have the ring with my team, I play open A still. So but we're actually quite smart players. We're just kind of not great shape and we're a little bit slower, but we're quite smart. So it's quite fun. So my defense play real defense and they know what to do. But as soon as I got the ring, I'm looking at saying, go, go, go. And I give it to them. So I'm talking to them. I'm encouraging them. I'm getting them going. And I'm creating that connection with them. So they know where it's going, who it's going to, and they know if it's not quite precise, they know, like, we have a connection and they know what we're doing, as opposed to me looking down, picking up trying to figure it out, and then just tossing it. And we've had goalies all the way up to the national team goalies that have literally thrown the ring. And I have to have a deliberate talk with them and saying the ring is a present. You are giving your teammate a present to set them up for success. You're not just tossing the ring. You are putting it out there nice and gentle, low to the ground for your player to pick it up and skate onto it and not get smoked by their forechecker. So you're giving your present, you're setting your teammate up for success, and you're going to take pride in your toss. So I think either your goalie might have had a couple not great experiences where they're hesitant. So give them the confidence to try it in a practice, especially at like a 3-on-3 with breakouts, and tell them that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to practice it, and they're going to try to get better at it. And it's okay if they get picked off, try it. And then tell them to, if they get picked off, say, that's okay, I'm going to make the save. And that's, we get picked off. Like, that's going to happen. We're going to have a bad throw. We're going to have something where I meant to throw it that way. It goes that way. It got caught on something, whatever. I meant to throw it to that person. They went that way instead. If it gets picked off, what's my job? My job is to make the save and then keep playing. All right. Any other related questions, or shall we?
Let's go. There's nothing else yet, so let's keep going.
Sorry, you find I have my passionate areas where I just want people to feel how important toss is, and you can't just put it out there and toss it at people's feet and bounce it.
We covered two. We got a rant and a topic covered.
There's going to be some good rants. It really is just you and I.
Let's go on to our next one.
Okay. Hockey versus ringette. This is another great passionate area, because a lot of us, we only have access to, first of all, we watch the NHL on TV. So we see how the NHL goalies are. We have parents that have kids in hockey or that have played hockey. We have goalie instructors that are so excited to be there, or coaches that are so excited to be there, but they haven't quite, either they don't know the higher levels of ringette or they haven't played the higher level ringette. And the easy comparison is hockey. I think there's another couple great comparisons. For me, lacrosse is another great example as opposed to hockey. If you look at the goalie styles of lacrosse, and we don't often get those comparisons. We don't say, hey, I coach lacrosse, or, you know, as a lacrosse goalie, can't I use the same things for hockey? I think because it's on the ice, it's seen as being very similar, but ringette is so much different than hockey. So I have 5 areas that I just want to touch on quickly for hockey versus ringette. The main thing is the butterfly. I don't know how many goalies in ringette are over 6 feet tall, but I'm going to say probably counting them on 2 hands across Canada. And I'm going to say we have goalies in the National Ringette League, national team, AAA, whatever, at super high levels that are 5'2" and 5'3". And the reason they're there is because they stay on their feet and they move well, and they have great balance and great, hard, sharp movements. So butterflying for absolutely everything in ringette isn't a good way to start. The main thing is to get your goalies moving well on their feet instead of getting them into a butterfly and a butterfly slide. So I did talk a lot about the one-pad slides. That's similar, that it's great in hockey. There's a lot of rebounds in hockey. That's the reason why they stay on their knees. Hockey players don't have ring jets where the 14-year-olds can roof it over my shoulder from 2 feet in front of me. They have hockey sticks, and it makes it a lot harder just to get it over my shoulder. So it's a lot easier for the little goalies to play the odds in hockey and stay down in a butterfly. The other thing too is once they're in a butterfly in hockey, they generally stay in a butterfly and shuffle around on their knees as well. And if we do that in ringette, it's pretty much a difficult habit to break. It feels comfortable down there, but if I'm on my knees, she can pass it over here and she can put it into a wide open net before I even turn to get there. So as soon as we're down on our butterfly on our knees, we need to work on getting back up to our feet, as opposed to staying and shuffling and moving around on our knees. The VH was actually one specific question, and I think you mean the vertical horizontal. And this is neat because I can relate it to ice hockey, to ringette, and to inline hockey, because we had a similar question from Namibia a couple months ago with that they asked us, what do we recommend, the one leg up or the one leg down? So VH, as I understand it, if I'm standing on the post, my post leg is up and my inside leg is down. So it's horizontal and I'm closing off the 5-hole with my pad and my other pad here. Couple reasons for the VH. It's I don't know, a couple of years now, it's got a formal term and everything in hockey. It's there to stop the wraparounds, first of all. It's there to stop the 5-hole and the fact that the puck is literally 2 feet from your toes. That's the main point of that and why it's there, and to stop the drives because they can get so close to the crease. For Ringette, I've actually had a lot of in-depth talks with some very high-level goalies between the one knee down or both knees down when we're on the post and what's the purpose. First of all, in Ringette, they don't do wraparounds. So people getting that close to our crease, they're not going to put the ring between our feet. So it's not for that. If anything, it's more for the low walks. So if we have a player coming up high and she gets around my defense and then comes into my crease, the top of the crease from the bottom, then that's the debate, is if they should be on their post and put one knee down and then try to follow them across. And I'm going to say definitely what Heather and I both talk about is it's good to talk with your goalies as to why they want to try it and why they think it might work, or talk with the parents or the goalie instructor and find out the reasons behind the different strategies. So I talked with one goalie and her reason was that she always gets scored on 5-hole when they do the low walks. Like, okay, so first of all, always getting scored on, so confidence. So now you're feeling like your 5-hole isn't good. So we talked about confidence and how to deal with that. And we talked about as well body language, which related to that. So a little bit of mental foreshadowing here. But if you feel like you're always letting in the 5-hole and you let in a 5-hole goal in a game and you sit and do this with your body language, the other team's like, we should probably shoot 5-hole. And so that part, but the reason why a butterfly isn't working to shut down your 5-hole was more what we got back to with her. And saying if you're standing there and you're in ready goalie position as opposed to one knee down. So I guess since we're on video, but one knee down right away, I'm turning my shoulders. I'm opening up my lower blocker. I'm opening up over my shoulder for Ringette, which is very scary because of the shooting ability. And I'm also making it so that I really can only move one way, but not move square. So this versus this, and the fact that Ringette players can come in here and do that and just give it a little flick right by my body is why I don't think the VH is very good for Ringette. If they're concerned about the 5-hole on those low walks, I recommend first hands towards the shooter. Balance. So the reason you're not getting the 5-hole is probably because your balance is either straight up or back. So they're coming in with speed, might cause you to lean back because you're not really that excited about the person coming right at you. So you need to get them to focus on leaning forward towards the shooter, especially as she's coming in with speed, hands out. And as you're leaning towards that shooter coming down, your knees are going to get straight down to the ground a lot faster and you're going to close that 5-hole. And then the best part is when you're waiting for that, if she's not going to shoot 5-hole and she's going to keep going, or if she's going to pass it back door, or if she's going to pass it back out, you're able to stay on your feet and move to adjust to that. So first, VH, ask why they feel they need to do it. If they feel comfortable, that's fine. If they want to do both, if they want to do a VH and if they want to stand up, it's better to work on both so that they can have both in their wheel well. I always say I've worked with a couple goalies, some that have some random techniques, and it's great to have random techniques because it keeps everybody on, I guess, off their guard and they don't know how to predict what to do against you, but you also need to know what to do when they start picking you apart. So if you love doing a V8 and then they start picking you apart, you have to know how to react from that, okay? Anyway, so I'll let that part go. The next one was rebound control. A lot of hockey people, we focus on rebound control in hockey, where the rebound goes and the fact that they can basically just slap at it with their stick or tap it or just jam it into the net, depending on where the rebounds. You want the rebounds in the corners. You don't want the rebounds right out in front. You're very concerned about where the rebounds go. For Ringette, I have been working with the higher level athletes for years to try to get us to be better at rebounds offensively. So either stabbing it and shooting it or just tapping at it or doing something when the rebound bounces right out there. And I'd say still, I say to our teams that we should maybe get one rebound goal on the other team a game. Like we should be battling for those rebounds. At the end of the drills, we should stop in front of the net and be ready for those rebounds and pounce on them at the end of drills. And still, that's been really hard with players to enforce the fact that rebounds are something that we can jump all over and Ringette. So if the players are even having difficulty focusing on rebounds, I'd say for goalies, focus more on make the save and then move to the rebound where the rebound is. So ideally we want the ring to stay in our crease, which is great. But I always say to a goalie, would you rather sit back a foot or two in your crease so that the saves you make fall in your crease? And sometimes you let in some goals around you because you're not pushing out hard in your crease. Or would you rather be at the top of your crease, make more saves on the front side because you're cutting down the angle so much better, even if the rebound falls in front of you outside the crease? And I think when it's presented that way, myself, I'm 5 foot, well, I say 5'8". Okay, I'm 5'7" and a bit, but with equipment, I feel like I'm a lot bigger. I need to play at the very top of my crease in the higher levels to make those saves. If I'm concerned about where my rebound is going and I sit back a little because coach keeps saying, put the rebound in front of you, then I'm going to be letting in more goals. So I think less concerned about rebounds for a goalie to where the rebound's going, more concerned about react to where the rebound's going and get there. And I always say to my defense too, is that I'm going to give out rebounds because I'm going to make the save. So if you want me to make the save, the rebound might be there and you got to help me with the rebound. If they get the rebound, I'll be there because I'll get back to my feet and I'll be ready. Rebounds to the corners are great. But again, in ringette, triangles on the inside, offense is on the outside. So if I'm focused on putting the rebound in the corners, I'm always giving them a reset and then they can go get the ring a lot faster than my defense. So rebound's not a huge focus. If you want to focus it, sure. Make sure that they can try to keep in their crease, but I'd say just more focus on get to where the rebound is. Get back to your feet and get to the rebound. And then my last one. This has started popping up a little bit more. A lot of ringette goalies have been going to hockey academies, so private one-on-ones or different, like they do hockey academy during school or things like that. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what was going on. But with ringette versus hockey on this one, hockey, when there's a shot coming, if I'm square in my net and the shot is coming to my glove side, I move my body to my glove side to try to get my chest in front. A couple of reasons for that, and the main reason is that if there's somebody over here that's tipping the puck, I have to get my body in front so that if that person tips it, I am in front of them and I can deal with wherever the tip goes. Okay? So ringette, when I have some of the ringette goalies that are focused on, if the shot's going here, I'm going to slide to make the save, or the shot's going here, I'm going to slide to make that save. First of all, if that's a fake, already I'm sliding or I'm moving, I'm getting on the fake and I'm moving my entire body. And we've talked it out with a number of goalies as to the reasoning behind the moving your whole body versus just being here and making the save. So if we're high in our crease, we should be good enough to make the save with that piece of your body, as opposed to needing to move your whole body to get behind a tip or to get behind the shot. So I should be a good enough goalie to make the glove save, to make the blocker save, as opposed to trying to get my whole chest behind making a save on the blocker side. So I think that's, beware of if your goalies have hockey training, that they might be doing some of that sliding or moving their whole body. And when they get to the older kids or the better kids, if I'm coming in and I'm faking and you're going all the way over here, there's a lot left over here in ringette. And you'll see it in lacrosse too, is that the goalies, they're there and they're not moving their whole body side to side as much. So I think that's all my hockey versus ringette talk. Is there anything related to that one, Steph? Or?
Yeah, I got a couple. I think in the interest of time, I'll give you like one or two, and then we can move on. And at the end, if people want to stay on and we can answer some of the kind of other ones. Greg, I think Keely answered your first question. Chris Beelan is asking, do you think there's a place for the reverse VH in ringette?
Reverse VH. We had that talk with inline hockey. I never actually got to this in my talk with this group, but so inline hockey, we talked about, so the one knee down and the one leg up so that you can T-push. And that's fair too. So one knee down on the post and one leg up this way. And it lets you T-push out because you use that foot. So it lets you get up and push, which is good. But again, it's dropping already. It's dropping a shoulder and it's twisting your body, as opposed to being completely square and able to move. So I think it all depends on the situation. Again, good to know which one. In inline hockey, we do the reverse one because you can't, but if you're this way, you can't slide your pad in inline. So you have to do it this way. And you have to basically be able to push into a T-push in inline. and it results in the same twisting and the same lack of being totally square to the shooter. So you'll get away with it for the most part. But I'd say once you get to the higher levels, you might start getting picked apart. So you might need to know how to just stay square as well.
Perfect. I think we'll move on to your next topic just in the interest of time, and then we can come back to a bunch of these kind of other, if you don't answer them in the next couple.
I know, time flies. Okay, so goalie's mental game. I have 3 things that I want to touch on. Confidence is one, focus and refocus is the second one, rebounding is the third one. I think confidence is huge. And I'm going to say for all you coaches, all you goalie parents out there, myself as a goalie, I didn't get to be a consistent goalie till I was, I'm going to say 22 to 24. And I didn't get to be like a really good, relaxed, calm, day in, day out goalie until I was in my late 20s. And I played as a goalie until I was 36 at a pretty high level. So that kind of gives you a good range. You see it in the NHL as well. You see it in other sports that, especially goalie with the amount of pressure that you have on you, it takes you a while to relax, to rebound from things, to come in with confidence, even if you're not feeling confident. So I think talk with your goalies, but give them a bit of slack and understanding. And just realize too, I played defense in ball hockey, and it's amazing how many bad shifts and terrible passes that you can have as a player that people don't notice. And when you're a goalie, everything is noticed. And so everything you do is under a microphone, and it's very difficult to actually realize how many mistakes that other players make that don't get noticed versus your goalie, and what you need to focus on with your goalie. I always say basically focus on 3 things at the most with your goalies, that you're not overloading them. And the main thing when you're going in, if you're nervous, I just actually had a talk with a little U12 goalie about this, but when you're nervous, I said, when you're nervous, what's your body? Where's your balance? What's your body doing? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if I'm nervous, am I leaning away from the shooter or am I leaning towards the shooter? And she's like, oh, probably leaning away. Okay, so if I know I'm nervous, I need to focus on leaning towards the shooter. So what I helped her with and what we've done with our different mental talks, first of all, confidence. If I'm not feeling confident, or if my confidence is lacking, I got pulled last game, I let in a lot of goals last game, it's the start of the game, we just let in a goal, it's the very end of the game. All these things where I'm realizing I'm not feeling confident right now, what do I need to do? So I tell them, you need to make the next 3 saves. That's your job. You don't feel confident, you're not sure what you're doing, you're making the next 3 saves. So right away, instead of, I don't want them coming in and shooting, I am making the next 3 saves. So instead of, I don't want to let in a goal, I hope I don't let in a goal, I hope they don't shoot, it's the end of the game, please don't come and shoot, I'm leaning back, I'm going to make the next 3 saves. Not I want to, I'm going to make the next 3 saves, I'm leaning towards them. And then I say to my goalies, the ones, oh, I let in 5-hole goals, where's your balance? If your balance is back, or I let in tricklers that go through me or tip off my glove or go under, where's your balance? If my balance is back here and it hits me, it's going to trickle in. If my balance is here and it hits me, it's going to fall in front of me. How do I get my balance? I either have my confidence and I'm into the game, or I fake my confidence and I'm going to make the next 3 saves. Okay? So that's how to deal with confidence in a quick nutshell. Pulling a goalie, dealing with 2 goalies, all of that stuff affects your goalie's confidence. And I challenge, I guess, all of you as coaches and parents, go sit in a room by yourself in the bathroom without a phone and a book, and sit there for 20 minutes by yourself after you've just been pulled, or after you've just had to share a game with a goalie, or after you've had something terrible, and sit there by yourself. And that's a goalie sitting in a crease. So if your goalie isn't feeling confident, or if they have questions about who's going to play next game, if they just got pulled and they're not sure if they're going to get pulled next time and things like that, and they're in their crease, all they're doing is thinking about it. And the more questions they have, the more they need to talk with somebody. Talk with you, talk with somebody. I've had goalies all the way up to high levels, all the way to little. Whatever's on their mind is going to affect their confidence. So talk with them about their confidence. Talk with them about what they're thinking about. Let them get it out so that they can go stand in the crease. Quick thing on pulling goalies. If you do pull a goalie, talk with them about it a bit after. I almost always recommend next time you play them the whole time. So next time you pull them, or next time you play them, if they let in the first 3 shots, keep them in. Look at them, nod, tell your team they're staying in the whole time. We had this with inline hockey, national team, last Worlds. Our starting goalie, I don't know what happened to her, and she kept looking to get pulled, and we're like, you're staying in. Turn it around. You're our starting goalie. Let's go. Or maybe you're not our starting goalie, but this is your game. Turn it around. So after they've been pulled, they need to stay in. They need to know that they're not going to be pulled. They need to know they can make a mistake and not have to look at the coach and not be sure what's going on. So just knowing that they're going to stay in the net will take away a lot of their nerves and give them a bit more confidence to battle through their issues. So unless it's the, I don't know, the last game of provincials or super, even if it's just a tournament, and I say just a tournament, even this year it's a little bit different, but even if it's going into the semis or whatever at a tournament, it's you're building for provincials, you're building for nationals, you're building for that goalie's career. Let them wait out the next game. Okay, focus and refocus. Again, with goalies, hard to send them out into the net by themselves. You might notice that goals are scored at the start of the period, at the end of the period, after other goals are scored, or after some sort of chaos that has happened in the net or on the ice. So a bunch of penalties or random things. Goals happen when people lose focus. Goals happen when people get tired, but goals happen when people are either not paying attention or not feeling confident. So the focus side, again, when they're coming in, I'm going to make the next 3 saves is a great one. After you let in a goal or after a stop and play or a whistle, it's nice to have a little pattern with touching nets or something. Heather likes to bang her net. She's quite loud and it works for her. I just like to touch. I touch one side, the other side, and then I just roll my shoulders forward. So that's my focus of what I do. It's not dramatic. It's not big. Nobody knows about it, but what I do, I touch, and I think in my mind, I'm bigger than this net. And then I lean my arms forward and I'm leaning towards the shooter. So that helps me get focused. But I think too, it's talking with them and getting them to realize and recognize what the heck is going on. Hey, do you know that you generally let in goals in the first 2 minutes of a period? You're like, what? No, I didn't even know that. Oh, okay. Do you know that when this person shoots on you, you, like, I don't know what happens to your technique, but you seem intimidated, but like talk with them about it so that they recognize, and you have to recognize and then give them the tools to refocus or focus at the time. If it's a pattern with their net or it's a pattern with their words, making the next 3 saves, something like that. And then the key for the focus, refocus, you got to follow up. So don't just give them the tools and be like, all right, have a good season. You got to follow up and talk with them. I don't mean harp on them after every single goal and every single game, but I mean like, hey, how's it going? Ask the questions. I know Phyllis, I think, is on this talk, but Phyllis is a big one with Beth Veal about ask questions of your players, ask questions of your goalies. How did that feel? How were the shots? How did you feel your focus was? Any areas where you didn't feel focused, and talk with them about it, okay? Moving on quickly, rebounding. This is huge. And I say this to all of our goalies in our talks, is that the goalie that is going to be a good goalie versus a great goalie versus a not so good goalie is the goalie who rebounds the quickest after making a mistake. And I get the goalies to put up their hands. Who here has had a perfect game? Shout out. So most can put up their hand. Who here has had a perfect tournament? Shout out the whole time. Not very many hands go up. So we all make mistakes. Who here has made a mistake that hasn't been a goal? So a bad pass or not quite the same, but didn't at least result in a goal. We make lots of mistakes. And the good goalies and the better goalies are the ones that can make those mistakes, but rebound very quickly and bounce back. And the best part are those goalies that can do that, but can also get the confidence of their teammates behind them. So I can have, well, I can say this now, but I can have a terrible game on my open A team. I can show up and it can be 10 o'clock at night and I cannot play well at all for the first 10 minutes. And I have the utmost confidence of my teammates that when we decide that we're getting embarrassed enough by the U19s or whoever we're playing, we're going to turn it around and win, and they know that I will turn it around. So if your goalie can rebound and if she can convince her teammates that she will rebound time and time again, then you will have the complete package of goalie plus team with the team behind her. So I think for rebounding, it's realizing mistakes happen. It's okay. What are you going to do? Make the next 3 saves. And I'm going back to it. It's so basic time and time again. rebound, I made a mistake. No, wait, next 3 saves. And you rebound quickly. And you say, everyone makes mistakes. The better goalies are the ones that can fix that quickly. Okay, I'm ready to move on. Anything else on this one?
I have a quick one from Mel.
Mel Brockman?
No, Mel Norris. Sorry.
Oh, Mel Norris.
Another Mel.
Sure.
Any suggestions quickly to assist with goalies who show a lot of emotion after they're scored on? Yes. I know this might not be a super quick answer, but give us your Cole's notes on that.
Can we go a little bit over? Are we allowed?
I think we can. And why don't I preface with this? I'm happy to stay on. And I think people seem to be very engaged. They're still here and asking lots of questions. So I preface with, if you need to go. You'll get the link. My
kids are out right now, so I've got like 3 times more.
My kids are sleeping because I'm in a different time zone, but we will keep going until we've kind of gotten through everything. And I know lots of questions coming in, and we'll try to get to as much as possible. And I will just preface with thank you very much, Keely, for those who have to go, and those who have to go, thank you so much for joining. We will send the full recording out, so you'll be able to catch up if you do need to go. I know it's still, dinner time in the West. So, and there will be also a feedback survey coming from me tonight. And we'd love to have your feedback as we kind of work through our webinar series as well, asking for different topics. So as we get close to the 9 o'clock Eastern hour, I know people have to go, but I want to just preface that we could stay on and get through your topics and not just cut you off. So yeah, I think we'll go on with Mel's question. If anyone has questions, you can totally chat me and I will answer as we go. And suggestions for dealing with those emotional moments.
There we go. Emotion is such an interesting, and I have a couple opinions on it, but I also know, with emotions, how does your goalie react with it, and how does your team react with it? And if they do it all the time versus if they do it sometimes, okay? So I'm a very quietly passionate goalie, that I don't show outward emotion because I don't want the other team to know that they're getting to me, and I want to show cool, calm, and composed. But my team also knows when I'm getting seriously mad. So I have moments where I'm letting in goals and I am not happy, but I don't need to show it externally by slamming my stick, breaking my stick. I can't afford a new stick. So that's the first question, is the slamming of their stick. Some teams and some people really like the show of passion, if you will, or the show of anger, the show of something. I find in the long run, it doesn't have a very good outcome. So I find first, it rattles the goalie. It's hard for them to rebound and refocus right after. Second, it will rattle probably at least half of your team that aren't used to it, or if they're used to it. But it has its moments where, like, I've had a massive hockey game that was huge, and in the middle of the hockey game, random call, it was, I pushed the net and the whole team cheered and rebounded. And, there's moments where that passion can be very well received. But if I've just made a mistake and I'm slamming my stick and I'm yelling at my goalie and I'm throwing my hands, or remember I let in that 5-hole goal and I'm feeling terrible and I'm showing that, my team loses confidence in me, and the other team, they're like sharks in water. They know that they're getting to you and they're loving it, and they're going to play it up and they're going to try to bug you as much as possible. So I played it inline against Team USA in the finals, and their sole job in 2004 was to run the crease and try to make me mad, because the year before we beat them 2-0 and they couldn't score. So their whole focus in that final game was to try to get me off my game and run me over and run into me. And my whole focus was I was making the save and playing the game. I wasn't going to focus on the penalties or not, or focus on getting run or not. I was just going to be calm and do my job in net. So that's what I feel. Coaches as well, depending on your style as a coach. There's my kids. I'll just ignore them. My style as a coach, passionate, yes, but if you're yelling and screaming all the time, it's going to lose its effect real quick. You got to go away. Kids, they still love you. Anyways, okay. Anything else on those topics, or?
No, we got other things, but let's go on, and if we don't get to them, I'll get.
Okay, or you can see my kids, because that's always exciting. Okay, practice. Individual versus team. Practices. Please, please, please do not start with some sort of shots in close, deking, side to side, a lot of random things. Please start with shots from further out. I don't mean they have to be easy pancake shots, but I just mean give your goalie a chance to save the ring, to make some saves before you're having her move and do dekes and do a whole bunch of in-close things. It's amazing as I got older, my teams that played with me realized my warm-up style, and that if they came in and deked, I basically stood up and gave them a nice look and was like, good for you for that deke that you came in when I was freezing cold. So let them warm up. Also keep in mind too, in practice, if you're doing a whole bunch of things where the goalie's not doing a lot, and then you want to hop into a drill where it's breakaways or it's a lot of movement for your goalies, feel free to give your goalies those 2 to 4 different drills that they can, when you're explaining the drill, they can go off and do some warm-up things to get their legs moving. Practice as well. Every time you plan a drill, are you planning it for the defense, the offense, the breakout? What's your purpose? And for every drill you're planning, what's the purpose for the goalie, right? So if the purpose for the goalie is to stand there and do nothing, then it doesn't really have a purpose, and why are they in for that drill? Finish it with a breakout. Finish it with, after this, you need to do this. Or for this one, you need to make sure that you're talking lots to your defense. Communication is a huge one. Angles is a huge one. For practice today, I want you to really focus on being high in your crease. So keep an eye on the drills that you're doing. Finish it with a breakout. Finish it with something with your goalie, or a second shot, or a coach can take some shots or things like that. If you have the extra coaches, it's excellent that way. Always good to have the goalie as part of the team, but always good if you do have time to take them aside and do a little bit of extra. What do you want to work on today? You have 5 minutes here, you have 10 minutes here, anything you want to work on. Yes, we're part of a team, but we're also a bit special, and it's okay to treat us a little bit special as long as we're not taking away from the team. So you also can't let your goalie take over and, oh, that is my quick. I knew I had the story. One year on the national team, one of my teammates came up to me and said, hey, can you make sure in warm up that they're not going to hit this other goalie in the head in warm up? Because if they hit her in the head, she's going to be crazy for the first 10 minutes and like not focus. And I'm like, it's the national team. If she gets hit in the head in warm up, she's going to have to figure out what to do. And so the focus, right? Like, no, you don't want to hit your goalie in the head, but if you hit her in the head, you also need her to be able to sort herself out for the team. Okay. So I was kind of touching on practice really quickly. Is there anything specific that has come up about practice, or?
Just one from Derek. It just came in. He says he struggles with how hard to work a goalie in practice. Like, what is a lot? I try to talk with them about when they will get lots of shots versus few and how they need to pace themselves, but I guess just some guidance on.
Yeah. I think too, sometimes like 3-on-3 in one end that goes forever and things like that. Like, I think it's nice sometimes when I'm there coaching the goalie too, sometimes I just call them aside and say like, I'm just giving you a break. I have nothing to talk to you about, but we've done 3-on-3 for 10 minutes and like, how you doing? And let the forwards or the other people talk. But I think as much as you can give them in a practice is good, but just make sure they have some breaks, because they have to last the whole game, but they don't have to last the whole game all in their end, all at the same time. They get whistles and they get like shifts down in the other end. So I think it's okay to keep them involved and give them lots of shots and keep them on, but also realizing that they do need breaks and they need those moments to relax and they need those moments not to be focused, and that's okay. Good? Okay. Pregame. I'll touch on pregame very, very briefly, not to self-plug, but to self-plug. I do have an off-ice goalie book that I put together based on off-ice stuff. So things to do with slide board, things to do with warm-up and things like that, with ladders and up and downs and leg swings and all that stuff. But I'd say pregame warm-up, good to have a routine, good to be able to modify or alter your routine. If you forget your skates, if you got lost on the way to the rink, if it's COVID and you have 10, 15 minutes to get ready, you need to condense. The whole point of a pregame warm-up is to give you a routine to make you feel comfortable and to warm your body up. So it's great to warm your body up, but you also need to start feeling comfortable and confident. Depending on what your team likes to do, if they want to do a team warm-up, that's good. If your goalie wants some alone time, they still should do the team warm-up. Honest fact is I hate team warm-ups. I hate loud, I hate dancing, I hate music, I hate all of that stuff. I'm quiet. I just want to do my own thing. I don't want to be surrounded by people with all their energy and all that, but the team wants that. I do the team warm-up. I do all that stuff. I sit in the dressing room with the music. I realize I don't like it, and I realize that I'm going to spend 5 minutes just doing leg things or stretching or doing something on my own for me, and everything else I'm doing for my team because I'm part of a team. So I think for pregame, that's a little bit Team is good, but it's okay to do some alone time. Definitely good to have a routine. Definitely not to be stuck in your routine in case something happens and you can't fall apart. If something happens, you have to be able to adjust and rebound really, really quickly. Good. On pregame? Okay, good. I did touch on ring distribution, so I think you got that rant of how important it is to put passes out there nicely and set people up for success. One thing, oh, I did talk with back to your feet. I'm getting into my rant topics now, by the way. One thing I did not talk about very much is communication. It's amazing, amazing how much better my defense play in front of me when they want to play in front of me versus if they don't want to play in front of me or if they don't know me. We're talking tryouts. I have had young kids, young players, young goalies that say, how do I stand out in tryouts? Tryouts, the kid that's talking to everybody on the ice. That's the kid that's going to get noticed. That's the kid who's going to automatically make people want to play with her and make friends and all that. As I say to all my goalies, it's great to have two goalies on a team. You're not taking away from the other goalie, but when you're in net, you want your team to want to play for you. So we have played, even in the NRL with the Edmonton Wham, we played with really good defense in front of me and not so strong defense in front of me. And you know what? If I'm going to go to nationals, I need 6 defense. And I need all my defense to want to play for me. And I need all of them to feel like I want to play with them and I have confidence in them. Because if I'm playing for a whole week, I need all of my team in front of me to help me out. And then confidence and communication on the other side. Sorry, talking about 2 goalies really quickly too. But if we have 2 goalies and we're trying to go to nationals or we're trying to play in a lot of really big games, we need both goalies to feel confident to be able to play. And that's how I think Heather and I have been really fortunate, and I've been really fortunate with a lot of good goalie duels, is that myself, if I'm a stronger goalie or not as strong, I'm comfortable knowing that the other goalie gets to play too, and I'm comfortable knowing that she has to play well so that our team can do better. So I've gone into nationals the last how many years that Heather and I have played together, and I go into the final game. I get the final game, and I've played 5 games during the week, and I'm playing against a goalie on the other side that's played 10 games. Because Heather's played the other 5 of the games and she's played well. She's had confidence of our team and she's played with confidence for her 5 games and I've played my 5 games. And I go in and I'm fresh and so we win. So that works out well. So yay. And that's the part of communicating and talking with the goalies and helping everybody feel as important as part of the team. But I think as your goalie, if your goalie's going in net and standing in net and not talking to anybody, it's going to be very hard for her team to feel comfortable with her. If your goalie's talking the whole time and not focusing on the play, that's a totally different story. But if you just got walked around and I made a save and I'm like, hey, that's okay, keep going, good try. Or if you've got the ring and I say, skate, skate, 1 on, you've got time, look over here. Like if I'm giving you a couple cues, or even if between plays, I'm just saying, hey, that was a really good check that you did back there, or really good watching that back door for me, thanks. Right away, I'm giving specific examples to my teammates and they're feeling that I care about what they do. And you'll see how quickly it flips and your teammates will be giving you confidence. And I don't know if Phyllis is on this call. Is Phyllis on this call? Phyllis Sadaway? She's in her 70s, still a goalie. So Phyllis is amazing and she's come to a couple of our goalie camps and we put her in the oldest group. And it's so neat watching at the very first ice time when all these young kids like U14, U16 and up, and they see Phyllis in pads and they're like, what is going on? And they're just looking at Phyllis in the first ice time. And the encouragement that Phyllis gives the other goalies that are in her station, that are in her group, it's amazing by the last ice time how many of those goalies are cheering on Phyllis when she's in net. So it gives and takes. They compliment their teammates compliment them, and everybody actually wants to play together. I let in a terrible goal, I feel bad. My defense come back and talk to me about it. They make a terrible mistake, it's okay because we support each other. And then on the flip side is you guys as coaches, talk with your goalies, please talk with them. Up to you how much of your strategy you want to give away, but if they don't know what's going on with whatever's going on in the game or the tournament or the year, and they have to stand in net by themselves, they're going to think forever and they're not going to be able to focus. So the more you explain things to them, then it could be very simple to be like, she's having a really good weekend, we're going to go with her this game, we're going to give you a break. Or talk with them about that and say, you're letting in some 5-hole goals, we're going to work on this. Talk to them and let them know. Let them know in a game. If you want to have like in a game, push out a bit more, or good job, or stay on your feet. If you want to do a couple things like that, keep it to 3 things in a game if you can, so they're not completely overwhelmed. But yeah, I would say talk with your goalies in a game. Don't be shy. And it's okay to single them out sometimes, especially if they do something good, but it's okay to single them out if there's things you want to turn a lesson for the rest of the players. We're used to being singled out, and that's okay. But we're also used to being stars sometimes. So it's okay to let us be a star as well. But I think communicating, because the more, especially younger goalies or goalies that are still working on their confidence, the more we're thinking about things, it's a lot harder for us to just focus and play. If you help us get through all the stuff that's in our mind, we can just focus and play. Okay.
I have
So I
a
think
quick
that's most of the
question.
communication. Yeah.
It comes from Nicole in our chat. How do you encourage a more quiet goalie to communicate with her teammates on the ice? Especially you being a quiet person, how did you come out of that?
It's true because, well, I explained the reasoning behind communication and say what you're trying to accomplish and why it's important for them to say some things. And I also say they don't have to talk all the time. And it can be quiet, it can be one-on-one in between whistles. They can start there, but at least finding something to compliment your teammates on and talk to your teammates. You don't have to be loud, you don't have to be center of attention. It doesn't always have to be that way. But I think explaining that it will make them a full package as a goalie, not just your skills. So it's making her a better teammate and it's helping her team feel better playing in front of her. It will help if she can at least talk with them in between plays and just pick 1 or 2 people, give them a specific compliment, or just start by saying, hey, good job, and tapping them on the pads. So it doesn't need to be loud or demonstrative, but just start with baby steps that way. Come out of your crease, pat them on the pads and say, hey, good job, keep it up. And actually, the other thing with communication, I realize too, when I'm playing in net, if I'm exhausted, odds are that my teammates in front of me are exhausted too. So if we're doing a 3-on-2 or if they've been in our end for reset after reset, I try to remind myself if I'm tired, I try to tell my teammates to keep going because that helps me keep going. So when I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted, this is the end of the game, then I'm keep going, keep it up, good job, keep it going, we've got this. And it, Amy Clarkson is my favorite with Winnipeg, Manitoba national team, but she always says like, well, I don't know what to say. So I had to give her a couple keywords, be like, good job, skate, 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 keep it up. Like give them a couple key phrases that they can use because a lot of them don't know. And I guess worst comes to worst in practice, stand behind them and you can shout out a few things and then they can learn from you as well. I've done that with Amy where I stood behind and I was just shouting out what I would normally say as a goalie. But if I was in net and she's like, oh, okay. And it gave her some ideas. Perfect. Next.
Yeah. I've got a couple like equipment questions.
Okay.
Is there an age or level where a goalie should or would change from the Keeley glove to a more traditional hockey trapper?
I'm the great one to ask that. I've played at the very highest levels against Team Finland with my glove. So new glove, small plug, I'm allowed to because I'm on the call, but new senior glove is going to have more padding as well. So it's going to help. But the main thing is you need your goalie to feel comfortable. You need them to make the save is the first thing. And ideally, ring distribution. So if they're terrible at ring distribution, you still want them to make the save, but you want to look at ways that they can make better ring distribution. But I think you can play at the very highest levels with the Keeley. I don't think you can play at the very highest levels with just a little glove. It's a lot harder. You need to be a lot better because there's many things that hit the extremes, but people have done it. So I'd never say never. And I say, if you're playing with a trapper, yes, it gives you more protection, but if your ring distribution is terrible, you might want to look at either somehow improving it or throwing with your blocker or doing something to give you some ring distribution. Because if you have a goalie with good ring distribution, you've just added an extra oomph to your offense and you can catch people off guard and get it going. Ooh, I had a good one from before from the questions, but it's very random about when you lose your stick. What do you do when you lose your stick? Do you go in a butterfly? Do you stay on your feet or what do you do? So very quickly, if you lose your stick, first of all, tell your teammates not to panic because your teammates will panic and they'll try to give you a stick and whatever you want to do. But I just play normal, and I just realized that they're going to be shooting for my 5-hole. So I just need to be ready to go into a butterfly quicker, leaning way towards, but I'm not going to be in a butterfly the whole time without my stick because it's going to be too hard to react. So first, calm your teammates down, you calm down, lean more forward so that you can get your knees down for your 5-hole a lot quicker.
Perfect. I have one more about the stick, actually.
Oh, good one.
Can you touch on stick length and keeping stick on the ice while moving?
I'm not a super, let's be honest, I was kind of poor growing up with my equipment in that I didn't always have brand new equipment. So I took whatever equipment, whatever sticks I was given, and I'm not great on sizes. I think size of equipment overall, you need to have small enough equipment that you can move very, very well for bulk. If you can move very, very well, then you can bulk up. So I'm not a fan of big pads, of big bulky uppers and big stuff so that you can't move. If you can move well, then you can get a bit bigger. If your size of your equipment affects your speed and your agility, then it's not worth it in Ringette because you have to be able to move a lot more than just being there. So stick length, I'm not the greatest on that. I recommend taking your skates and going to a sports store and they can help you. I also recommend never cutting a goalie stick because that affects the angle and the lie of your stick. So yeah, don't cut the top off, even the little whatever, but I don't know. You want it so that when you're leaning, you can get your hands and your stick out with your knees in a comfortable position, not way down, so that you don't want your hand to be dropping. You want your hand to be even with your glove hand, your shoulders. You don't want to have your blocker drop when you're in a comfortable position. But yeah, sports store.
Perfect. Do you have time for a couple more? What's your?
Yeah, they haven't come
Your
back
kids
yet.
haven't bombarded you yet.
Let's say 2 more.
Sure. Yeah. I know Lindsay asked a question actually much earlier, so let's get to hers. How do you focus on getting your goalie with angles, to master their angles? For context, her goalie is U14A, a little smaller, sits very deep in the crease. Just give you some context.
Yeah. So every rink is different for sure with all the angles that way. It helps if you play at the same place. But for angles, it's as simple as touching your post out to the blue line, back to your post, across, touch your post out to the, in your crease, but you angle out to the blue line at the top of your crease and then back. And then you can do that and just doing some rectangles and some squares and some triangles where you're pushing out and pushing back in and checking your angles before a game or before a practice. But I think with the little kids, we always do, okay, wait, in a drill, you stop and you put the ring down where your feet are and you come and look where I am. And I think if your goalie's little, it might be very good to talk with her and say, okay, if you're little and you're back in the crease, well, you can see it right now with the camera. If I'm back here, how much of the net am I covering? If I'm perfectly on my angles in the middle versus if I'm off my angles and I'm at the top of my crease, how much of my net am I covering? So if you're looking at how much of the square I'm covering, that's good. I got the middle. I'm right in the middle versus I'm way off my angles, but look, you have like half an inch to score on that way. So it's better to be high, even if you're off your angles, and then just work on having them check if they want to check, or getting those from the blue line. Getting those cues from the blue line is a great way to go.
Okay, I picked my next one because there's a couple around the same theme,
right.
Around that ring just outside the crease. So do you have tips and tricks on how to stop that goal or from it happening? And then the other question is around at what point do you start encouraging the goalie to play that ring versus hold their kind of, as a younger goalie, maybe you're saying just stay in your crease where, at one point do you say, go for it?
Yeah. It's different because we used to be able to get away with the pulling it in and being like, oops, I'm so sorry. We get away with that way less now. So first, practice drills where your forwards and defense are battling for those rings. And your defense don't have to stab it. They just have to direct it elsewhere instead of in front. So the forwards are probably trying to stab it, but the defense can just whack it or kick it and get it out of there. I hate to say it, but as a goalie, for Ringette, because so many of our offensive players don't just bat the ring towards us. Most of the offense tries to stab it. That for us to be in there and poke checking or even two hands and knocking it, if there's a mix, not great. Because by the time you're getting in there, you're totally off. And if somebody does get it, you're nowhere near ready to make a save. And as painful as it is, it's better to stay near the top of your crease, depending. We've debated top of the crease if they're right in front of you. If they're right in front of you, you might want to be back just a little bit. But if, so your ready position, just seeing how it happens, seeing how it shakes out so that you can make the save. If there's nobody around and it's like a battle or the ring is there and you can get there first, I play hockey and ice hockey too. I am 100% a fan of getting out to play it or waiting till they stab it and poke it. I do that behind the net as well. Mindful of how much is left on the shot clock. So if there's 2 seconds left on the shot clock and I'm poking it, that's going to give everybody a reset. Coach isn't going to be happy with my timing on that poke. But if there's somebody coming in, it's a fun drill for you and your goalies that you can work as a coach. You pass the ring in just ahead of them and then you skate on and get them to practice poking it or shooting it right before you stab it. And it makes your players really mad, but it's quite fun. So that's a fun drill. Sorry, I want to touch real quickly, but in Ringette, especially compared to hockey, but Ringette players to goalies, we need to get better at pushing out for breakaways and fast breaks and coming back into our crease. Because the players have such speed and such variety. If our goalies are just sitting at the top of our crease for a breakaway, or my defense is taking it out, she got checked, and oh geez, quick break, somebody coming in, we need to get better with our goalies and pushing outside of our crease, being comfortable with that, and coming back in, because then we can match some speed and we can stay with the players if they're going to the far posts. Wanted to touch on that. That was a bonus.
Perfect. And I totally get that we have not covered all the questions, and like unfortunately we're at limited time. But I think Keely's offered her email address. She's got her website. I put them in the chat at the very top. And I will also include them in my follow-up email just so people know how to get in touch. I know there was a couple other equipment questions around the Keely glove in particular. So they're probably best to go to you one-on-one. Yeah, and I, again, Keely, just want to thank you so much. This has been like, I am not a goalie coach, but, and I've spent a lot of time with you and your goalies, and I could still listen to you go for another, like, however long you wanted to talk, which would probably be a while. But yeah, thank you so much for just giving this education to these coaches. And on the flip side, thanks to these coaches for joining us. This is kind of our third stab at a webinar and a totally different spin from our last kind of more holistic side. Now we're right into technical, tactical, and more of this. So thank you, coaches, and please fill out the feedback survey as we move forward. We just want to be able to support you, and we don't know what we don't know. So please do that. And yeah, I think next week is Coaches Week in Canada. So there'll be lots of cool things coming on social media. We have an Instagram contest with a Team Canada jersey to win. So please share with your teams. And there's lots of free education actually with the NCCP and to get some more PD points. And next week, we're actually hosting another webinar on Tuesday. Information will come out tomorrow around the CAC and all the questions around how do I do this and where's the next training and how to navigate, I guess, your coaching pathway. So stay tuned for on that. And yeah, have a great evening. Take care of yourself and good luck with everyone's startup, no matter how it's phasing in or out for you and in your situation. So thanks again, Keely. And yeah, we'll say good night here.
Good night. Good luck.